Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm your host for the next couple hours, along with Nick.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. You?
Good. I'm very zoomed in.
Mhm. You're very zoomed in.
Yeah, I'm zoomed in. I gotta sit back a little bit.
Huh? I don't know. I know it's hot there, but I wouldn't think that you would expand.
Well, I mean, eat and drink enough, and I guess that's kind of what happens too. Maybe I'm a little bloated.
Our number is 919-518. Oh, and Gal should join us. Katie also maybe she had something in the family, but Spence is in Alaska, so chances are he's not going to join us today. So our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. So what's happening, Nick? You haven't been here last week.
Yeah, so it's been and I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks coming up in the next month or two.
Well?
It's a lot of stuff going on during the summer, but it was Prime Day this past week. Amazon's uh, essentially Black Friday in the middle of the summer.
Right.
I think they've done this. Did you say 4 or 5 years? Maybe they've been doing it. It hasn't been all that long, but it's been a couple of years. Um, and they they do a pretty good job with it in terms of obviously they have to strike deals with the people that are selling goods. Right? They can't just when you talk about a company like Amazon, who is not really selling a lot of things themselves. Yes, they've got their own Amazon branded products, but a vast majority of what they are is a marketplace.
Right.
So it's not their products to sell. So they can't put a 50% discount on somebody else's thing. That's just not an option. So they have to drum up deals with all of these companies, which has got to be a huge pain in the ass.
Right.
With all of these companies, most of them probably being in China, if we're being honest. And they've done it a couple of years. Was it Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, or Monday and Tuesday?
It was
Monday, Tuesday,
Monday,
Wednesday,
Tuesday.
something like that.
Monday, Tuesday.
Um, and there was a lot of stuff on there. I mean, I didn't buy all that much, but got a couple of things I was needing anyway, and was able to. So they added a new filter item. On the left hand side, there was a big old filter button that said Prime Day deals. So I was able to get a couple of things.
And the deals were really good.
Here's the thing. It's so hard with Amazon because everything, almost, not all the time, but almost anything that you buy is on sale when you buy it. I mean, there's very few things that you go to Amazon and it's not like 10% off or 15% off. It's very rare that you're paying MSRP, we'll call it,
right,
for something on Amazon. So it's hard to tell. I have this Chrome add-on.
So you bought it just because you needed it, or because it was really a good deal during those 2 days?
So, for example, I bought. Well, this is a good thing. I haven't looked at this yet. So I needed some new grates for my grill.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How much did I pay for these? All right. So they were $37 on Prime Day. They're $47 now. So I
Okay.
guess that was a good deal.
Yeah.
Um, I guess that was a good deal then. So
Yeah,
so
but
yeah,
you
I guess so.
so you didn't just go crazy and
No, there was a couple things I needed that I was gonna buy, and then Prime Day came around, and I was able to
yeah.
get them. I got that. Needed a couple of needed a couple of long iPhone chargers. Two. It's funny. I have so in my I have a backpack that I carry around with me to work, and it's
Mhm.
got all my stuff in it. And then I've got a duffel bag that I when I go up to Raleigh or I go somewhere for a night, traveling for an event or whatever. I have that. I have had two 10 or 12-foot iPhone chargers that I would just keep in those bags. Very rarely used, but would just keep in there so that whenever if I grabbed it quickly, there would be a phone charger in it. Um, and I had them, uh, spooled and bundled. So you wrap it around and then wrap the cable around itself. Both of them died, and I wonder if it was just because they were in this they were just wound up the way that they were and just were like that for months and months and months without being used. I wonder if it must have just damaged the conductors inside the cables. Um,
So
two different ones at two different times.
it's a wired into the
Yeah,
charger
yeah. I
or
mean, it was
okay. It's
just a
not
regular
something
10-foot iPhone charger.
yeah, I don't know about the iPhone. So the iPhone doesn't have a cable that you can just unplug and get another cable, plug it into the
Well,
charger?
yeah, it's a USB A on one side and then a Lightning on the other.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So did you try to put another cable to see if it was the
oh yeah,
cable?
yeah. It was the cable.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I tried different
So
bricks. I
you
tried.
so you bought cables. You didn't
Yes,
buy
correct.
okay.
Yep, I just bought a couple of
Yeah.
10-foot, iPhone, which I
Hmm.
actually looks like have been sitting in my mailbox for the last couple of days now that I look at it. So I got those and then a couple
You
of other little things, but, yeah,
well,
so seemed to be I don't know if they've released.
did you read any I didn't read anything. What did Amazon or people say about this?
This is what I'm looking at. Let's see. Fox Business. Amazon 2023 Prime Day sets new sales record. So July
Oh,
11th and 12th,
okay.
which was Tuesday and Wednesday,
Oh, okay.
Prime members around the world purchased more than 375 million items, and according to Amazon, saved $2.5 billion on sales. Um, in fact, the first day of the 48-hour shopping day was the single largest sales day in the company's history, according to Jeff Bezos.
Wow.
So July 11th is the largest sales day that they've ever had. Um, During the 2 day, consumers spent $12.7 billion. How about that for you? Which is nearly 6.1% growth compared to last year, which actually makes sense because if you go back 12 months, inflation was at nearly 10%. It was like 9 point something. We're seemingly coming out of that at least a little bit. So, um, yeah, good couple of days for Amazon.
Yeah, well,
Hard to beat almost $13 billion pulled down in 48 hours. That's pretty impressive for any company.
very, very impressive.
And I think, the bigger trend on that, if you look at it from like a macroeconomic scale, is that folks compared to last year might have a little bit more leisure money, as I'll call it. I mean, reality is if you're buying something on Amazon on Prime Day, you probably didn't need it. Um, that's kind of my if you need something, like if my
Then you buy
car
it.
breaks
Yeah,
down, my car won't start. I need a battery. I can't
right.
him and haw and wait till Prime Day rolls around. So the things that I bought, I didn't necessarily need. I have other iPhone chargers. My grill grates are all right. I mean, they're not in the greatest shape, but so that's people probably have a couple extra bucks to spend. So I guess that's maybe a good sign economy wise in the US.
There was a story that I didn't print, but I remember reading it. It said that because of the EU trying to sue Amazon for doing certain things in the EU, Amazon filed papers that they cannot be considered a big platform apparently the EU has rules that if you're a big
I'm sure they do.
platform, so they filed papers that they are not a real big platform. That's
Well,
interesting. Yeah,
they in the EU, depending on I don't know exactly remember all the EU member nations, but depending on what their footprints look like in those areas, they
that's
might
true.
not be considered one. I don't know how exactly that works, and I will admit I don't know really anything about the EU besides their just out of
Oh,
control regulations. Um, so yeah,
oh,
that very well might be the case. Mike is in chat and says he ordered an SSD from Amazon at 10 o'clock last night, and it was delivered at 8 o'clock this morning. That is
wow.
the benefit of living
Yeah,
in a, I guess I'll call it a hub city
yeah,
where Amazon has a lot of stuff. They were supposed to be, and they were supposed to be building a big facility down here in Pender County, a big distribution center, but and they were supposed to be building that second headquarters too, right? They were supposed to
right.
be building something in Virginia, maybe. I don't remember where it was. And
There,
all of that stuff has come to a halt. They have not expanded. Um, I don't know that they are currently opening any new distribution centers. I know there's still plans to, but Amazon, like many of these other tech companies that were flushed with cash over the last 3 years from stimulus money and all this garbage flying around the economy, um, they had to cut back like everybody else. They laid off a bunch of people. They had no
mhm.
choice. And then the money dried the one-time money dried up.
Yeah,
And you can't use
it's
one-time
funny. I
money to
mean,
pay
when
salaries.
you're talking about Amazon money drying out, it's not really money drying out. It's just they manage their money and they say, okay, now
Yeah.
no, we can't do
Well,
this.
when I say that money drying up, a lot of this was one-time injections of cash
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
from COVID. I mean, a lot of these that's all these tech companies. I mean, we covered this week in and week out of all Microsoft hiring, opening up a brand new facility and hire well, not a new facility, but opening up a new center and hiring, 1,500 people and all this stuff. And then what did we see 18 months later? Microsoft firing
Down.
3,000 employees. I
Yep.
mean, it was just all of them did it. Every single one of these tech companies did it. And so
Yeah.
we'll see if they end up with I got a call from a lady this week on the radio that asked about that facility down here because we've had a lot of issues with Amazon. It's been better in recent months, but if you go back about a year ago, I talked about it on the show. I stopped ordering from Amazon because nothing was coming. I'd order something on a Monday or Sunday afternoon, and it wouldn't come till Friday. And this was everything. They were so backlogged that things, even coming from the southeast coast or southeast states, from
Hmm.
Virginia or from Tennessee or wherever, Georgia, would take 4 days because it would sit in processing for 2 or 3 and then ship. It just didn't make any sense. They've cleaned that up, but obviously they had some logistical backlog issue a couple of years ago. That's cleaned up.
Yeah. Well, they're getting better and better. I mean, with
Yeah.
like, and it should happen that they'll get better and better because it's more and more
Well, and it ebbs and
experience in what
flows.
to do. Yeah. It's
I
fine.
mean, it's constant. Supply chain is constantly moving around, so it's kind of a hard thing.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about it a couple of weeks ago that the European Parliament voted in favor of new legislation that would, among other things, require batteries in consumer devices like smartphones to be easily removable and replaceable, like the old days with the Android. I don't think it was ever like that with the iPhone. But in the old days, I mean, talking about old days, 3, 4 years ago and earlier, you could replace the battery easy. This week, the European Council officially agreed to the new regulation. Now, when the European Council and Parliament sign on the dotted line, the clock will start ticking for manufacturers to ensure their devices have replaceable batteries by 2027. That is, if they want to sell their devices in the EU. I would guess that the manufacturers are not going to have phones for the EU and phones for the US, so we'll probably benefit from that because they'll and on the assembly line and the designing, it's all gonna be the same.
This is over the store, correct?
Over
The this is
over
over the App Store, correct?
what what does it have to do with App Store?
That's what I'm asking. I must have missed the beginning of the story. I thought
No,
you know.
it's to have batteries that you can replace.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I must
that's
have
alright,
zoned out.
dude.
Um,
So they're gonna have to make it so they are replaceable. So, you know, it's in many cases, it helps to take the battery out and reset the phone. That way, when the battery goes bad, that's gonna affect I think it's gonna affect more iPhone than anything else.
well, yes and no. Here's the reality. The reason that a phone like this can be so thin is because it doesn't have a user serviceable battery. Now that does not mean that and let me be clear. The battery is user serviceable. It's
Right.
not as simple as popping off a
Right.
back cover and clicking in a new battery, but it
Correct.
is serviceable. Oh, you can I say easily. That's a subjective term obviously, but you can and you can go to like iFixit,
Yep.
which is a phenomenal website, and you can buy an iPhone battery replacement kit, and it will come with the tools, the little plungers,
Correct.
the things that you need to take it apart, and the new battery. And it's not that crazy of a thing to do. Um, user serviceable is great, uh, but at the same time, do you want your phones to be bigger and bulkier so that you can replace the battery? Uh,
I don't
that's the
know.
trade-off.
I don't know. I mean, they with the new technology, they may be able to. I mean, the only reason that the phones are thinner now is because the phones don't have I mean, the batteries don't have a shell.
Sure. Yeah, they're just the lithium ion packs wrapped in a
Yeah,
little thin cover, and that's it.
correct.
But I mean, look
So
at this. This is where's my screen capture? I mean, this is the iFixit iPhone 11 battery replacement kit. This is the battery, the plunger, all the tools you need, and everything, and it's $39.
oh,
Now, obviously, it's not for the faint of heart,
right,
um, but
never is.
but then and there's a full 8-minute video on how to do the replacement. And they go through step by step and will walk you through every single portion of doing the battery replacement. So it's not like it's I say soldered in, but it's not. I mean, it's literally a screw and a ribbon cable that connect it.
So
So
that
I just
must
don't.
so that must be the way it is right now in your phone.
Yes, that's how it is in most phones. And you said this is more of an iPhone issue, and yes, it is. But
Yeah,
any modern
right.
smartphone you're buying from Samsung or Google is the same thing. You can't. You have to bulk up the phone significantly to have a user serviceable battery because you have to put a shell around the battery for protection, which adds to the bulk.
Well, I don't know that what you're showing cannot be considered a user replaceable battery.
Well,
I don't
I
know.
think it should be because it is. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not. You don't need a proprietary, drill press or some sort of, suction machine to get the phone open. You
right.
just need a couple of plastic priors and then a little bit of hand-eye coordination to do it. And you can watch. I mean, this video's playing. This is
Yeah,
not the easiest thing in the world to do. But the other thing to note, and Amnon, I'm sure these places must be all over Raleigh because they're all over down
that do
here.
it. Yeah.
All these battery and cell phone repair places, that's what they do, and it's cheap, man. You can go in there and for $50 get a brand new battery. Or hell, if you live in a place where there's an Apple store, which there isn't here, there's a couple up in Raleigh. I've done a battery replacement on a phone. I want to say it was 50 or $60,
Really?
which yeah, it's not expensive. They don't charge a lot for it. And you might say, wow, 50 or $60. Well, remember, your iPhone's $1,000 or 899 or depending on what it could be 12 or $1,300 depending on the model you're buying. Um,
Oh,
I honestly I don't know that I want to use a serviceable battery like the old style, pop out the battery and put it in. I think I'd much rather have a slimmer phone and I can make the decision. And again, I can either go pay somebody to do it or do it myself for $40.
Hopefully,
I don't
they'll
know.
figure out a way to keep the phones the same.
They can't. It's
Yeah.
not possible. I mean, just there's a you can't when you see how thin these lithium ion packs
Right.
are, you can't you can't sell those by themselves to people. They're dangerous. They need to be protected because if you drop it, there's a possibility it explodes if it's just in the really
In
thin.
the bag and
It's almost in like it's almost wrapped in tinfoil. I mean, it's a
right.
very very
That's
thin
exactly what it
shield
is.
on it.
It's tinfoil.
Okay. And then versus an Android, an older Android phone battery where it's this little, credit card looking cube with a hard shield on it, plastic shield. You can't do it.
That's a good
And I don't
point.
know why you would want to. I mean, the iPhone battery and any modern smartphone has such a good battery, and they have put in so many protections and software. For example, when your phone is at 100%, you get your new phone day one. It's at 100%. It is not at 100%. It is
Right.
only using. I don't remember what the number is off the top of my head, but something like maybe 92% of the battery. And then as the battery loses capacity over time, which it does. That's
Yeah.
I call it a feature, but that's a
Mhm.
feature of lithium ion is that it loses its ability to hold the charge over time. It eats into that 8 or 10% that it didn't originally use. And long term, and the way that it does its charge cycles, at least on the iPhone, when you plug it in, it very quickly will get up to something like 80%, or maybe it's 90%, and then trickle charge the last 10. And they've found the best ways to handle charging of batteries. I've had my iPhone now for a couple of years, and I don't have any significant battery issues. Um,
I
I just
guess
don't. I just
the only significant battery issues you have is with UPS.
Yes, that is true. Okay, so here we go. I just opened my phone. My battery's maximum capacity is 89%. That is the charge it will hold.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's options in here. Optimize battery charging. To reduce battery aging, iPhone learns to your daily charge routine so it can wait to finish charging past 80% until you need to use it. So I plug my phone in every night. So it does that at night. It learns that over time.
And then
Um,
what happens in the morning? Is it still 89 or is it
no, well, it's at 100%, but it's 100% of 89%.
okay. All right.
And that's the thing because these batteries
Yeah.
lose their
Ability, yeah.
ability over time. Um, there used to be a thing called battery health. Um, it used to show you a little thing, but it'll tell you when it needs service. It'll come in and say, needs servicing or something like that. So yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know that it's that big of a deal. And the audio is working, by the way.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
at
Yeah, I
least
just
on Twitch. So I just don't know that it's that big of an issue.
well, apparently there were a lot of people that were asking for it and they
Yeah, but they
finally
weren't. They weren't though. This is just government bureaucracy in the EU doing its thing.
Oh, okay. I did
I mean,
not
come on.
follow this.
Well, I'm sure there was some idiot that was like, "Oh my god, I need a user serviceable battery." But but for the vast majority, I don't know that they're chomping at the bit for this. What do I have now? I have an iPhone 13. When did the iPhone 13 come out? 2021. So I've had this phone for a little close to a little over 2 years.
Okay.
And
That's not
the
bad. Yeah.
the battery's at 90% maximum capacity. Or 89% maximum capacity. So 2 years worth of drain. And when it gets to the point where it needs service, I have a couple of options. I can buy a case that has a battery built into it. Apple sells one. It adds a little hump on the back of the phone, or you can get one that's a larger case, and that's a battery. You can be more conscientious with plugging it in when you're in the car, things of that nature, or or you can just go and get a new battery from any random side shop cell phone repair place, or take it to Apple, or do it yourself. I don't know that it's a big issue. It's not something that I have looked at and ever had an issue with, because they make it so affordable to get a new one if in fact you need it.
Well,
Looking at how much Apple charges, because it was I couldn't believe how cheap that it was. So let's say I have an iPhone 13. It is, excuse me, it's $79 to get a new battery and replaced from Apple. I don't see that to be a huge issue.
no, it's not. But it used to be a lot more. And
I
what
I
there
remember
was,
paying about 100 for it, which was still I didn't think was unrealistic. Again, because and some folks might say, okay, well, I don't want to have it done by some random college student working
Mhm.
at a cell phone repair place. Okay, that's fine. Then take it to Apple or take it to Best Buy. I'm sure they do it too. With they have a hot, I don't know what the they call it, like hotspot. It's their phone center that's inside the store. They probably do that there. Or again, do it yourself.
Yeah, but again, $80 is not much. But there was that
Well, the
situation
issue
where,
with the $80 is if you don't live in a major city, you don't have an Apple store.
yes, true.
But again, that's why there's these other alternatives.
But so there was a situation a few years ago where you had to buy a new phone because there was no way to replace, or they will not provide the replacement or whatever. Remember that? Was it the 5 or the
Well, I don't know. Apple, I do remember this vividly. Apple got under a lot of heat, and
yeah,
rightfully so, for not offering it themselves. It was seen as a very scummy thing to do. But all these third-party shops did, because they're not using OEM batteries. They're buying, they're getting their batteries from some Chinese manufacturer. And you might say, "Oh, well, that's a problem." I don't know. I mean, it's the same lithium cells that Apple's putting in theirs, just at a cheaper cost. So Apple got some flack, rightfully so, and then they offer it. They offer it as a part of their Genius, Genius Bar, whatever it's
bar?
called.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
So I don't know. It's not been something that has crossed my mind.
no, it's just interesting. I mean, I remember replacing the battery every year, and I keep the phones for 3, 4, 5 years easy. I mean, I keep them until they die.
Yeah,
And it was a Samsung, and I remember having to replace the battery uh, often. It
but let me say this, and some of this may have been user error. And when I
correct.
say that, you are not a normal cell phone user. That you were very if infrequently, is that the word to use? You were not discharging your phone very often, would be my
No,
guess. It was probably charged all the time.
yeah, it was always
That
on the
will kill your
charger.
battery.
Correct. Yeah,
That will absolutely. There is so much evidence to back up that people that keep their devices max charged all the time,
you lose
um,
it. Yeah,
yeah, same thing if you keep your battery discharged all the time. You'd need to go through full
yeah.
charge and discharge cycles.
But
And I do that on a pretty regular basis. Most nights when I'm getting ready to go to bed, my phone is under 20%. And that's from a full day's use. And that's
mhm.
a full day starting early. I mean, this is full day. I'm, scrolling around on
And you're
Twitter and
using
stuff
it, and
in the
you are
4 o'clock
using it.
hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so
The one
learning how to use the battery is pretty important also.
the one occasion that I can think of, oh boy, I wish I could replace the battery is sometimes, and I mean, I'm still charging it if it's like below half, I put it on a charger. But Kathy sometimes leaves it in her pocketbook, and the next morning, oh, my phone is dead. Now, if she had to go somewhere, there's nothing she can do. You have to keep it
I
charging.
disagree. Hold on.
Oh, oh yeah, okay, yeah,
Well,
yes,
you
you're
you
right.
laugh,
Yeah,
but now this thing is massive. This is
yeah,
this is a 30,000 milliamp power
right.
bank. This thing will charge my iPhone from almost dead to 60 to 70% in something like 25 minutes.
Yeah,
It is so quick. So,
right.
so here's the catch 22. You can either keep one of these little cell batteries like you can pop out on a
Right.
charger,
Yeah.
or just keep a little power bank in your
Yes.
purse or
Yes.
in your
Yes.
bag.
I
Now, not in
agree.
your car because it
Yeah.
could explode and,
And you
kill
don't need
someone.
anything that big. You can have a
No,
smaller one.
you can get away with the ones that look like they have ones that look like they're smaller than like a
Almost like a
pack of
seat.
cigarettes. They're
Yeah.
tired. They're
Yeah.
very very tiny, and you
Yeah.
can get a full or two full phone charges
Yeah.
on it. So that's it. I mean, that is to me, that is why the idea of needing to have a separate pull-out battery that you're going to have to leave on a charger anyway, which is going to kill
Yeah.
the lithium ion performance over time, makes no sense. Because either way, you have to keep something charged. It's either a portable pack or a slot-in battery. I'd rather keep the portable pack and keep the
Yeah.
phone slimmer
Yeah. And
and
the
not have
portable pack is good for other stuff too, not
exactly.
just for the battery, for the phone.
So,
Yeah.
plus any modern car that has been any car that has been
Yep.
produced in the last 10 years has a USB outlet. Now
Mhm.
it's not a fast charging one in most cases. It's only half an amp trickle. It's not very fast. But
Yeah.
you get these fast charge USB battery banks. I I, I don't know why you would want to have to jockey around a bunch of pull out batteries and keep those on chargers. It's a huge pain in the ass.
That's a very good point, Nick.
I
That's
always
a
make good
very
points, Sam, and
good
I get
point.
paid to do
Yeah.
it.
But you would want to replace them every 2 years, every year.
Which ones? The in-phone battery or the portable
The
power
in-phone
banks?
one.
Well, so that's what we were just looking at. My phone's 2 years old, and my maximum capacity is still 89%. So, I mean, maybe, but not until it gets a little bit lower. Would at least for me.
Mine is now 3 years, 3 years or 4 years, 4 years, and it's a big battery. It's a 51 amp hour or whatever. It still lasts for 2 days. It did in the beginning and still does. Uh, that's one of the reasons why I bought them. It's because Gal was saying, "Hey, this will last over a day," and sure enough. So yeah, I mean, it's Nick. I will not argue with that. Yeah, one of those power packs,
They're
perfect
so
for that.
freaking cheap.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you can
yeah,
get well, not only are they cheap, if you go to like any sort of like street fair or like town parade event or whatever, companies just give them away with their branding on them. They look like little look like a lipstick thing almost. And they're circular, they're little
hmm
square boxes and they have their logos on them. I mean,
yeah,
they're practically free.
yeah.
Banks
So you're
have my
plugging
bank's got
just
them when you walk in.
you're plugging just anything you get into your USB.
Uh, that's an issue for another show.
They there's a device, I watched a video on it this week or a couple of weeks ago, and it was specifically dealing with airports with what Gal is saying, and that people are maliciously or putting in malicious USB outlets in airports and things
Right.
and trying to siphon data. And there's this device you can buy. And if you travel out, you probably should have one. It's called like the USB kill or something like that. And what it does is it when you plug this device into the USB outlet and then your cable into it, and what it does is it essentially disconnects the data pins. So all it's passing through is 2 pins for power or 3 pins for power. I don't know if it's grounded or not. Um, and it literally disconnects the data lines and does not pass them through.
Yeah. Good morning, Gal.
Good morning. Sorry for joining late.
Slept
Had
late, huh?
something.
Slept late.
No, no.
So let's play.
I'm awake since 7:30. I just had something I had
Uh-oh.
to do. Tell you after the show.
All right. All right.
There was a huge story this week over Microsoft and Activision.
Yep.
This deal is about the deal's actually set to close 3 days from now on the 19th on Wednesday. This is a massive, it's almost a $70 billion acquisition. Microsoft, the maker of Xbox, purchasing Activision Blizzard, which is, well, Activision and Blizzard were two separate companies. Now they're one, but that's games like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, a whole bunch of games in the Activision thing. They also own, oh God, who's the Candy Crush maker?
Oh, no.
Jesus.
It doesn't matter.
PopCap. I think it's PopCap or Crush or something like that. They own that company. It's a huge group. And they've gotten Microsoft and Activision combined have gotten approval from a vast majority of regulatory bodies across the world. However, the Federal Trade Commission here in the United States, the new FTC chair is an idiot. And she, for whatever reason, is trying to wage war on this acquisition. They filed a couple of legal attempts to block it, and what I find interesting, and I don't say this to be political, but I think it shows how egregious it was. A Biden appointed California judge ruled against the Federal Trade Commission, which is an indication of just how garbage their legal standing or lack thereof was. Um, and they did not approve the acquisition yet, but they won a massive attempt to do that. The FTC was attempting to get a preliminary injunction to halt the deal, and this judge said, essentially, you are likely to lose this case. You really don't have any legal legs to stand on. So I'm going to rule against your injunction, and the merger is likely to happen
Mm-hmm.
imminently, like within the next couple of days. If it doesn't, the problem for Microsoft is if they don't hit their deadline, that now gives Activision the opportunity to open it back up for a
Bidding.
different
Sure.
cost
Yeah.
to renegotiate the deal, which I'm positive Microsoft doesn't want. They locked in this price of nearly $70 billion almost 2 years ago. So they want to keep that price. And I'm sure for Activision shareholders and for Bobby Kotick, they'd love to get a couple extra $10 million out of Microsoft if they can. So there's a lot riding on what happens in the next 3 or 4 days in regards to this. But, you know, I obviously you want, you know, their antitrust is an issue, consumer protection is an issue, absolutely. Um, but this attempt by the FTC is just government out of control. Um, it's trying to
And-
usurp themselves in essentially a vertical merger. This doesn't really change the landscape all that often. It's not one product buying another and the other product goes away. Just really showed you where where the current Federal Trade Commission chair's mind is, and she just got this judge crucified her in this ruling. So
There
I'm
were
hopeful. I
there
think this
were
is great for gaming.
there were a few reports last week from different sources that said that the FTC is really in bad shape now because they keep on bringing suits and losing. They did not win anything.
Yeah, because
And,
they're
and
ridiculous.
yeah,
They're not
and
they're not valid. It's them trying to just insert themselves
Yeah.
into processes for seemingly no good reason.
Right.
Nobody can make a salient argument, at least that I've seen. And they're not alone. The UK's, I think it's called the CMA or the CEM, or yeah, CMA, is also trying to pull this same garbage that the FTC is. And Microsoft threatened the UK and said, that's fine. We'll just pull all of our operations out of the UK and move it over to the EU. So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see what happens. I think this is a great merger for the industry as a whole.
we'll have to wait and see, but it should be.
Everything, and Brian and I have been following this literally for 2 years. Everything that we have seen and all of the discovery and and legal back and forth. And the other company that, as you can imagine, is very much opposed to this would be Sony Entertainment, the makers of PlayStation. They are very opposed to this too. They've been fighting legal battles, but it's kind of the same thing. Nobody can point to specifically what is the negative of this or how somebody is going to get hurt based on this merger.
How is this going to affect independent developers, if at all?
None. I mean, Activision Blizzard is already the one of the largest besides Tencent, which is a Chinese-based publisher. They're the largest, call it free world publisher that exists. And they're not doing work with indie studios. I mean, um, they're doing the big AAA Call of Duties, Diablo kind of releases. So I don't think it affects them in any way. Um, Microsoft with their Game Pass has made indie developers and has given consumers the access to indie games essentially for free. You pay the monthly subscription. They've done that. They've done more for the indie development group than the indie development sphere than I would argue anybody else with Game Pass, because I would never pay $8 or $9 for some of these indie games, but when I can play them for free, it opens up a whole new world.
But how does that affect the indie developer? That's my question. Like, is that a good thing for the developers themselves, or are they getting screwed here?
I think it's a good thing for them. Brian and I have been covering indie game stuff. I mean, we're on episode, I don't know what episode we're on of Infection. 443 weeks. Um, to, from what I understand with indie developers, getting your game in front of faces is what you really need. And when you look at Steam and you look at the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of games that are available, it's really, really hard to do. But a lot of these
Agreed.
indie studios have struck deals with Microsoft. They're getting paid licensing. It's not like they're getting completely screwed by the company. They're getting these licensing deals, and now they're able to get their game in front of millions of active players that before wouldn't have even known about it. And that's how these indie games survive on these little cultish like followings. They find a game that they love, and they're all about it. And that is what allows these games to make sequels and DLCs and expansions and a lot of that stuff. So in terms of being pro indie developer, I think Microsoft and Steam have done more than anybody else to make these games available to the mass consumer who would never have seen it before. I'm
Well,
really high on Microsoft. I've always been an Xbox fan, and I've yet to see the boogeyman that everybody claims that they are as a consumer of the product. No, I'm serious. As a consumer of the product since I was in freaking middle school, I've been an Xbox player. And I've bought all of the consoles, and I pay for Game Pass, and I pay for Xbox Live. I have yet to find the boogeyman in the closet that everybody claims. Now, when they see it, I have no problem calling them out on it, but I haven't seen it yet. So, yeah,
All right.
big win for Microsoft.
Are you ready for specials?
I could be ready for specials, absolutely.
do you want to be ready for specials?
Well, that was my thing here. So I put this in here. I'm glad Gall joined because I thought he would find this funny. It's going to be hard to see on one screen here because of how zoomed in it is. If you could try scrolling down, Amnon.
I know, but I wanted people to read that
Well,
first.
scroll down a little bit so you can at least see the. So it's somebody winning. This is somebody winning a esports tournament, and there's confetti and everything. And the caption is Linux users when they finally managed to change their wallpaper after typing commands for 20 minutes. Now, the real meme here is that there's no wallpapers in terminal, but nevertheless, it's a huge feat.
What do you mean there's no? Of course there are.
In regular terminal, not using any of your terminal enhancement softwares. Regular
Okay.
terminal, there's no wallpaper.
Come
And you know
on.
damn well I'm right. So let's get into specials. I've got a cool collection of things in here this week. Don't be afraid if you click the first product link. I think it's just an issue with B&H's website, and they're closed today, so it's not going to get fixed. But it says no photo available. But this is a hell of a deal on a Lenovo 16-inch IdeaPad Slim 5i laptop. This thing is brand new. They just brought this SKU on the market. It's a 16-inch laptop from Lenovo. It's an i5 1335U. That's a 13th gen, top of the line, 10 core processor. This thing is a beast. 16 gigabytes of RAM. I don't remember if it was expandable or not. I'll look at the end. But 16 gigs of RAM built in, which is more than sufficient. A 512 gigabyte M.2 NVMe. It's a 16-inch 1920 by 1200 IPS display. So this is 16 by 10, which is what you want on a laptop anyway. And it's got the Intel Iris Xe graphics. I have a Lenovo laptop that is the Slim 3i, I think, or maybe it's the 5i, but it's a 14-inch instead of the 16-inch. Spence has got one. I am, in terms of good consumer laptops on the market that are on the kind of this middle tier, Lenovo, I think, is really owning this game right now. The HP offerings are garbage. There's been a lot of reports of problems with them recently. Dell's stuff, they don't have much in this price range. And there's a couple of other brands, Asus and Acer, that have some decent offerings, but I really do think that the low to middle tier laptop, which is what this is at $619, they really are kind of owning this marketplace right now. I've been nothing but satisfied with my Lenovo laptop that I actually bought a year ago on Prime Day. I think, or maybe it was Black Friday. I've had it for a little over a year now, and I've been incredibly happy with it. And Spence has got a similar model, and he's been happy too. So this is over at B&H. It does note limited supply available at this price because it is a new release. It's a new SKU. $619, save $180, regularly $800. I can't tell you the last time that we had a Chromebook in our specials because they are so freaking expensive. The $89 and $150 and $200 Chromebooks of years past have vanished. They just simply do not exist. And any Chromebook that you see is $400, $500, $600. It's insane how expensive these things have become. And even this one has got an MSRP of $400, which is insane to pay when you can get a decent Windows laptop for the same price. Now, yes, there are use cases for a Chromebook, but to spend $400 on a laptop and be limited into Chrome OS, and yes, you can now install Android apps, and there are some ways you can obviously run Linux on some of these machines, but for the general consumer who might be wanting to run some Windows apps like Word outside of the cloud, I've never understood the price point. This is a decent sale on this though. It's an HP, and it's running an Intel N200 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and a 64 gigabyte eMMC drive. It's 50% off, $199, but the clock is ticking. There's only 14 hours left on this sale, and it's a 15.6 inch, so it's a large laptop. It's got a full numpad and everything on it. If you are a Chromebook user, if you're in the market for a Chromebook, this is a pretty good price. I have not seen a Chromebook with specs like this at this price in quite some time. So check that out over at Best Buy. I didn't even realize that Google TV still existed, but apparently it does. And here is a Hisense A6. This is a 50-inch 4K UHD smart TV with Google TV built right into it. And this is available both on Amazon and at Costco. So you can go into Costco and get this at the same price, $248. In terms of ports and connectivity, it's got 3 HDMI ports on it, one of them supporting eARC for audio, a couple of USB ports, Ethernet, coax, optical audio, and the cool thing is it does still have AV in, so you can hook up a retro game console, an old VCR, DVD player, something like that if you still need to connect one of those every once in a while. But again, running Google TV, so if you're in that ecosystem, maybe you want to check that out. Available at Amazon and in store at Costco. All right, When was the last time you guys saw a 24-inch TV?
It's kind of
I
ridiculous.
I didn't know that they still existed. But as I thought about it, I actually got one of these recently. Now I didn't buy it, but I had work purchase one of these for me for the studio. And Insignia, as I did some research this morning, Insignia is really the only brand making these TVs at this size, and it makes sense. How many people are in the marketplace for a 24-inch television? But there are many cases where on a desk, in a not in a spare bedroom, it's too small for that, but in a garage or a tight space, maybe even a kitchen where it you're not going to be able to get a 30 or 40-inch television in there, where this might still work. And what makes this one cool is it's got Fire TV built right into it. So you can easily, maybe you're somebody that camps, you can easily pull this thing out. You don't need to hook anything else up to it besides a power cable, and now you've got a smart television for $65. It is 720p, which at this size, I think is totally fine. I'm not sure it even makes sense to have a 1080p display at this screen size. Um, it's normally $120. It's $55 off, and it's got a plethora of ports, 3 HDMI ports, hookups for cable, hookups for an antenna, and an Ethernet jack. So it's got all of the connections that you would expect. And again, it's running the Fire TV OS built right into it for $65. Very specific use case, but if you need it, it's pretty hard to beat at that price. $65 over at Best Buy. Now, fortunately, all of the TVs that we covered today have decent HDMI hookups. But even with 3 ports, realistically, if you're going to connect a Roku or an Amazon Fire, if it's not built in, that leaves you with 2 devices. And game consoles, things like the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox, other sorts of devices, Blu-ray players, and things that you might have connected, you can very quickly run out of ports. And this is a hell of a deal on a 5-in-1 USB port, a switcher from Ugreen, which they make a bunch of phenomenal products. I have a couple of them. This is a 5-in, 1-out, 4K 60 hertz HDMI splitter. So, or switch, excuse me, not a splitter. So you can connect up to 5 devices. It supports HDCP 2.2. It supports 4K. The only downside, if you can call it that, would be the fact that it's limited to 60 hertz, which for some game consoles and even some smart television devices like Roku's, they might support 120 hertz, which, especially on gaming, it would be important. So you can easily bypass this and plug your game console directly into your TV. But for everything else, any sort of smart TV box, any sort of Blu-ray player, anything like that is going to be 60 hertz anyway. So you can plug this in, supports pretty much everything. This is normally $42, and between a 30% off coupon on Amazon and a link on Slick Deals, you can get it down to $27, which is, I think, a pretty great deal on an HDMI switch there from Ugreen. Okay, I know Gal but Gal is not going to be a fan of a device like this. But it was so cheap, and it is so cheap that I had to bring it up. So this is a company called KMC. I don't know anything about them. They are selling a 2-pack of Wi-Fi plugins. So this plugs into your outlet and it covers your outlet. So you would take a duplex double gang outlet and plug this in. And what you get is 4 120 volt plugins, 3-prong plugins. One of them is an always on, but the other 3 are independently addressable via Wi-Fi. So for $14, you are getting 6 Wi-Fi controlled outlets that will, through their app, and you have to use their app, which for a lot of people is not something that they want. But you use their what they call their Smart Sense app, and you can connect this with Amazon AWord and Google Home and get 6 completely independently addressable outlets for $14. Now, that's a pretty hard deal to beat. even though you do have to get in on their ecosystem.
You
I
do
mean,
not.
you do not.
I mean, yes, to onboard them, but these are Tuya, Tuya based,
Oh, I didn't realize
right?
that.
Yeah. So it also means that theoretically you can jailbreak them, replace the firmware, and then disconnect them completely. But
So
that requires like really being involved. There's I followed your link to Amazon, and if you search for the word Tuya, there is actually a very detailed review of somebody who hooks them up to Home Assistant, but
okay, great.
read it. Doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like he's a fan. And he bought 8 of these, thinking they'll be great, but something didn't add up. So your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now if you're going to use their integration, which the risk with something like this is that the company that provides the app, KMC, which I know nothing about, that they shut down and then these
Yeah.
devices become useless. Now, it does seem like there might be some ability to do that, but damn, for $14, if you
Yeah.
get a couple of years out of these things, I'd consider that a win. And then you just have to buy something new. Really cool device. I've never seen something in this form factor before with 3 independently addressable plugs. So that's pretty cool. 13.99 over at Amazon. Next up, Govee. This company makes so many cool products. They popped out of seemingly nowhere just a couple of years ago, and they have really usurted themselves as kind of the marketplace leader in smart LED lights. They make a whole plethora of products and a whole bunch of other stuff too. They make microphones and other things. These are outdoor, what you would typically call like Edison lights or string lights that have existed forever, but these are smart bulbs. Now they're not RGB, but they're controllable. They're dimmable via an app. They have IP65 waterproof design, so they're all weather protection. You can control the brightness from 100% to 0%, depending on the atmosphere you're trying to create or something like that. They're 24 feet long. They come with 8 bulbs, and you can obviously string them together. And they're on sale for $13 using a $6 off coupon on Amazon. This is a pretty good deal. They make really, really cool products. This product in particular, has 2,700 reviews on Amazon and has 4.5 stars. They make really, really cool stuff. If you're looking for LED RGB stuff, I would, even though they'll be a little bit more expensive than the knockoff brands, I would recommend a Govee product. I have 2 of their little LED strips, and I'm incredibly happy with them. And their app is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. And
So
and keep in mind, these specifically, they're Bluetooth controlled.
yes, all of their
So
stuff is Bluetooth.
yeah.
I don't know that they make anything that's Wi-Fi. Um, so yeah, check that out. Available over at Amazon. All right. Reviews on this are mixed, but I thought I'd put it in here because I thought it was pretty neat. Schwinn has one of their e-bikes on sale. They say the description is unisex. It is the color is wine, which I would recommend not drinking while riding this. But nevertheless, this is normally set. They say this is on Walmart. Normally $745 for this 250-watt e-bike, and it's on sale for $398. It's got 32 reviews on Amazon on Walmart, only 3.7 stars. Looking at a couple of the 1-star reviews, it was issues with
The box.
well, not issues with the box, but like one review is did not power on. So that's a defective unit, which
Yeah.
yes is an issue, but happens all the time. Even major manufacturers have defective units that come.
Right.
A couple of the other reviews, again, manufacturer defects, quality control seems to be the issue, which would make sense because this is just coming from some plant in Taiwan. There's probably little, if any, QC on the products. But it does seem that if you get a working unit, that this thing is pretty cool. And it's $400. This is a pretty cheap bared entry for an e-bike. It's got a light on it, pretty lightweight design. It's not like too egregious in terms of the setup and everything on it. Very, very entry level e-bike. Reviews, do your reviews. This is not an endorsement. $398 available over at Walmart. And then finally, if you're buying one of these new laptops, you might want to get yourself a USB-C hub or plug-in or dock so that you can connect a bunch of devices. This is an ESR 8-in-1 portable hub. This is a rebrand of somebody else's hub. They all look the same, which is why I put it in here. This hub supports power delivery. It'll give you an HDMI, three USB Type A's, a micro SD card, a full-size SD card, and an RJ45 Ethernet jack, all for $15.11. This is normally a $39 dock. Using a couple of promo codes and Amazon coupons, you can, again, get this for $15 available over at Amazon. And that is our specials link for July the 16th.
Well, thank you, Nick.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Um, yeah, I was saying, the box. I ordered a wedge pillow from Amazon.
A pillow?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's like a wedge, and you lay
Yeah.
on it, and it raises.
Props you up.
Yeah, and it came yesterday, and I go out to get it, and the whole side of the box is torn off, like it got caught on something, and it torn, and the piece was still hanging. I mean, it was hanging off of it, and the thing is like some of those foam products that come in and they're really compressed in really hard and
The
packed.
vacuum seal.
Yeah, and the plastic that holds the pillow itself was torn, and the pillow itself was stained with
Oh,
dirt
man.
on it and all that. And I'm saying, how did that driver even drop it? I mean, come on. And he took the picture of the front where the tear is when he left it at the door. Yeah, I just called him. I mean, I went ahead and I said, yeah, I need to return this for replacement, and this is this. And yeah.
Well, it makes sense that they delivered it because that's what I would expect them to do. They need to deliver it. If they don't deliver it, then it's a whole nother problem. At least if they deliver it and then it's damaged, Amazon can go after the shipper and get their money back. But if they don't deliver it,
I don't know. That was Amazon shipping. I mean, it was an Amazon.
Same difference then.
Yeah.
And they can dock whoever
Yeah.
they need to do. But
Uh,
it makes sense that they deliver it because if not, then what?
I don't know if they don't. I mean, it would.
They have to deliver it. My point is that if they don't deliver it, then what happens to it? It's not. I've never
Uh,
seen a product not come because the box was damaged. They'll just deliver it beaten to hell, and then you have to open up a complaint or file or whatever.
Yeah. So I did, but it
That's
was
happened to me a couple of times, and so I'm a fan of Zevia.
Yeah.
Amnon turned me on to it, and I had an Amazon what is it called where you recurring delivery
subscribe and
subscription.
save.
Subscribe and save, yeah. And every single time for about 6 months, when it would come about every 6 weeks or so, 7 weeks, whatever it was, there would be at least a can or two that did not make it, and that would not only would that be a problem, but all the other cans would just be sticky, and the
Yeah.
box would be falling apart. And funny enough, now that product is no longer available on Amazon. So
Huh.
I have a suspicion that this was happening to everybody, and Amazon just stopped selling it. I got an email last week, and it said, "No, sorry, there's a problem with your delivery," and now the product page is just empty. So I have a suspicion that is it no longer makes sense for them to ship the product because they were all coming in damaged. I didn't pay for a single case of soda the entire time I had the subscription. I didn't. And
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
didn't, at a certain point I was like, Jesus, they're gonna think I'm scamming them, that I'm getting the box and just,
yeah.
taking a knife and stabbing the soda, but obviously not because it's happening to everybody. Or enough people that
Interesting.
they're no longer selling the item.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
well, actually,
right.
well, I'm looking at it and it says that there's a shipment coming this week, but I don't think that's actually happened.
Oh, well, you have to wait and see. Maybe another
Yeah.
free one.
Now, I just clicked on the product page. There's not even an option to buy it.
Oh,
So I guess I'll have to go to the freaking store, buy it myself.
Well,
oh,
you were a fan of it when it was free, always refunded, right?
I'm still a fan of it. I'll pay for it. It's just, things like
Now you
soda.
need to pay for it.
Well, yeah, that is going to be a problem. Well, you know what I'll do
no,
is
you,
I'll go to Food Line with my Bowie knife and I'll stab the side of the case and go, "Oh my god, this
you,
can of soda exploded in my cart."
you just need to wait until it's on sale, and it's on sale pretty often. That's when Kathy gets
Where?
it for me, on at Harris Teeter or at Whole Foods or at Food Line, where
Oh,
they
okay.
put them on they put them on sale at different places. Yeah,
Okay. Hmm. Yeah.
Gal,
Um.
did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
No, not really. No.
Okay, Nick, what did you start saying?
Uh.
Uh, okay,
All I know is I need to go get a refill of my coffee. That's all I
okay.
Okay, then you go refill your coffee.
Um, talking about phones, and I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with it. No one, the article is interesting. No one in the Android ecosystem can hold a candle to Apple's software support timeline for the iPhone.
Huh?
But it's true. I mean, you can have an iPhone 5 and it's still you can update it, right?
Uh,
I
no,
don't know. Anyway, but there is one company that comes the closest, FairPhone.
AirPhone. Yeah.
Oh, so you heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
Following in the footsteps of the FairPhone 2, the FairPhone 3 is also getting an Android industry best 7 years of OS support.
Right, but
7 years.
it's let's be clear.
Yeah.
It's not the Android you know.
Oh,
It's their version of Android.
okay.
Okay, it's important. It means that uh, again, I'm not dishing them. I'm actually applauding them, right? But it's a Google free Android.
That's nice.
Yes, very nice. But it also means not everything will work this the way you expect, right? Because there's a lot of apps that are very popular that on an Android they require the Google ecosystem, right? So just uh, it's it's a phone. It's a fantastic phone. It's a very privacy oriented phone, right? It is a very maintenance friendly phone, right? But it's not a Samsung or an iPhone. Okay. Uh it will not necessarily out of the box be as convenient to use as any of the big names. Now, I think, right, this is a good thing, but it is also very important that it finds its audience correctly, right? I mean, I would love a phone like this. I
But
don't think I would buy this phone for either my wife or my son. Okay.
oh,
It's just because there is a learning curve involved. And until I am comfortable with it, I would not put this on anybody else. So this is definitely for the more privacy conscious and the a bit more technical users.
Okay. The article keeps saying Fairphone continues to run circles around giant tech companies that have a lot more resources than it does. And it's doing this even in the face of component vendors like Qualcomm dropping support for the phone's core components. The company announced today that the Fairphone 3, which was released in 2019, has had its support extended to 2026, making for 7 years of updates. The company also just released Android 13 for the Fairphone 3. Google's own 2019 phone, the Pixel 4, shut down support in October 2022. Fairphone strives to make sustainable smartphones, designing its product to be repairable and also offering replacement parts for sale online.
Yep.
Part what?
Yes, yes.
Part of that sustainability mission is an absolutely Herculean effort to keep the Android updates flowing, even when Qualcomm drops critical software support for the SoC. Fairphone says the Snapdragon 632 SoC in the Fairphone 3 was only supported up to Android 11. So continuing to support the Fairphone 3 meant doing the upgrade all by itself.
Right.
Nice. Are they cheap
Oh,
phones?
no, they're not very expensive, but they're not cheap. They're very good build. They're very well built. Um, People who have uh, up until now they weren't available in the US at all.
Oh,
They're going to be available shortly. Um,
where are they from?
uh,
You know?
I don't know. They might. I don't know where they're developed, but they weren't sold in the US at all.
Okay.
Europe mostly. Um, I don't know if the outfit is European though. But it's they've since the day they came out. You remember the talks about right for repair
Yeah,
and stuff like that,
right.
right? They were the front leaders, the ones that everybody were quoting, showing that it can be done and it should be done. Their approach is a completely refreshing approach. I really hope they keep it up, and maybe the big players will you know
Follow? Nah.
will follow. I think they will once sales will rise. I wonder how they're going to deal with the US as a market, which is really, really focused on iPhones, right? So it'll be interesting.
Oh, it's nice to see that somebody's doing something any way you look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they are. It is the name they chose. They are sticking to it. It is a completely fair phone. It is fair in price. It is fair in its. You buy it for a very long time. Uh,
Okay, so
it
let
is
me
very
ask you this.
fair
You said you wouldn't buy it for your wife or your son. Give me give me
until I try until I
Oh,
work with
okay.
it for a
Okay.
while.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's not that you know that it doesn't do this or
No,
doesn't do that. It's just
no, but I know
it's
it's going to
too
be a
different.
completely new experience.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so
Okay. And
and
talking
as you've read, right?
Yeah.
They follow like they follow the Android ecosystem, and they but because they ha- so the thing
The
about Android,
processor is not supported anymore. They have to write their own stuff.
well, it's not about that. It's about the OS and about the Google application suite, right? The G App suite. Uh, you can only ship that with a phone that installs Android from Google. And the moment you manufacture a single device that is a fork of Android, right?
Yeah.
you are not allowed on any of your other device to ship Google application suites. So that's the way Google licenses stuff for hardware makers. That's why Amazon must maintain their own version, which isn't fully compatible with the Android ecosystem. Because I mean, you need to work at it, you need to be technical enough to know how to do it, but in order to make it an Android system, you need to install a lot of stuff on your own. And so it's the same situation with Fairphone because they have their own Android-based version of the hardware. Uh, um, then they are no, they cannot. I don't think they want to, but they cannot ship like a Google certified Android system, right? And so um, that is where the privacy part actually kicks in. They have figured a way of providing you with a very good OS, right, and keeping your data private,
Hmm.
uh, which is it's that's phenomenal. But it also means, right, that you'll need to get used to using a different maps app, right, and a different because all of these they just feed your data outside without your control. And so uh, that is why I say be approach this with a grain of salt. Understand that it's going to be a learning curve. I would advocate, yeah, go ahead and learn, but anybody who buys a phone wants to start learning how to use a new
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I'm putting that caveat.
Okay. All right. That's good. And talking about updates, if you have any interest in retro computing, you know it can be difficult to round up the last official bug fixes and updates available for early internet era version of Windows like 95, 98, NT4. There's a new independent project called Windows Update Restored.
Hmm.
It's aiming to fix that, hosting light modified version of old Windows update sites and the update files themselves so that fresh installs of these old operating systems can grab years worth of fixes that aren't present on old installed CDs and disks. These old versions of Windows relied primarily on a Windows Update web app to function rather than built in updaters like the ones using current Windows version. Microsoft took down the version of the site that could scan and update Windows 95 and 98 sometimes in mid 2011. The Windows Update Restored site is a lightly modified version of Microsoft's original code, and the site itself doesn't use any kind of SSL or TLS encryption, so ancient Internet Explorer versions can still access it without modification. You'll need at least Internet Explorer 5 to access the Windows Update Restored update site. That browser is no longer available directly from Microsoft, but the Windows Update Restored site offers download links to IE5 and IE 5.5 in all supported languages. I mean, somebody went to a lot of pain here to create something that will cater to a very small group. I mean, I don't know who would want to install Windows 95, 98, install it now. Now, mind
So
you,
I
there
can
are no new updates to these operating systems. That's not what they meant. They
Right,
are
but if you want to run software that was designed for those machines,
okay.
let's say for academic research, right? Just to just to look at old software and try to run it
Yeah.
on
Okay.
a VM somewhere, right? you still need. I mean, I can see a very small audience for this. It seems to be a huge effort. Um, it- yeah, but it's not for us. So
Yeah.
it's like a curiosity at this point.
Yeah, it's I mean, you got to give them. I'm wondering if this was done from a grant that somebody gave them, or
Probably, yeah,
because
probably.
it's not a small task to do this.
Who is this? Who is this? Is this Microsoft that's doing
No,
this or somebody
it's
No,
else?
no, 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 no.
somebody else called uh, Windows Update Restored.
Yeah, so I actually just watched a video on this past week.
Oh,
There's the retro, and
yeah,
there's another one too. This retro community, which is what you mentioned,
yeah,
it is blowing up. There's a lot of
really,
folks that are, yeah, there's a lot of folks that are, and some of these guys are like, there's this guy, he's actually from Asheville, LGR. Um, LGR is his channel, Lazy Game Reviews or something like that. I mean, he's got like 4.5 million subscribers, and all he does is retro computing. And I actually watched a guy, this guy Michael.
This is 50s Cadillac restoration, right? Projects just on computing.
Yeah, there's this guy. Actually, I'll post the video in chat. It was 10 days ago, and he actually goes to this website and he does. Amnon, you'd appreciate this. He does a um, he does he does it on Windows 95 and on XP. And this website, here, I'll show a little bit of the video here. It essentially copies what the old Windows Update used to be
yep,
just through a website.
yep.
And this just pretty much it spoofs that essentially and makes the OS believe that it's doing those updates as if it was on the original
Right. They
update.
said that it's slightly modified.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's cool. I mean, so you can log into this, you can put a Windows 95 computer on the internet and go to this Windows Update Restored.com site and browse through it as if you were doing the original Microsoft Windows Update.
yeah.
And it goes all the way back to 3.1. Or excuse me, version, it goes all the way back to 95 and all the way through
I thought they said it
Windows 2000.
Windows NT 4.0
Yeah, yeah. Well, 95 is before. Is NT 4.0 before 95?
before.
Gotcha. So yeah, you can just kind of see the process. I'll put a link to this in chat. It's pretty cool to see this working. There's another one specifically for Windows XP. I think it's called XP Update Restore or something like
Huh,
that.
look at that.
And it's the same thing. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool little project. It's great to see it's great to see the hobbyist community do stuff like this. It's pretty neat.
Huh?
So Amnon, there's hope. Don't take this as an opportunity to go start running these old OSs,
Yeah.
Amnon.
Uh-huh.
This is for hobbyists, not
Yeah.
for primetime use.
It's interesting to say the least.
It's
Yeah.
a cool
Yeah.
It's a cool project. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. AI,
Ah,
a
favorite.
genuine picture taken on an iPhone was thrown out of photography competition after the judges suspected that it was generated by artificial intelligence.
Mm.
Susie Doherty had captured a striking photo of her son with two smartly dressed mannequins in an intriguing pose while visiting a Gucci exhibition. Happy with her creation, she entered it into a photo competition. She didn't think much more of it until a friend showed her an Instagram post declaring her photo ineligible because the competition's organizers suspected it to be an AI image. He says, I wouldn't even know how to do an AI photo. I'm just getting my head around ChatGPT. Um, I wonder how those judges came to the conclusion that this was a an AI thing just because there were mannequins.
They
I don't know.
probably ran it through an AI tool that's an AI checker,
Yeah,
and it probably came back as AI. Because
mm,
those are big things now. The
the checkers.
AI the AI checkers. I think
Yeah,
they're probably I assume they're probably the most prominent in education
right.
with colleges and whatnot, but essentially it's using AI to check if something is AI, which is kind of weird in itself.
Yeah,
It's like the Spider-Man meme of the guy pointing at himself. Um, so that's kind of it.
yeah.
Well, I think she won the competition, though.
Well, good.
Nobody from that competition is going to get the exposure she got to that photo.
That's true. She lost, but she won.
Yeah,
Oh,
didn't win the prize, but she
true.
got
Yeah,
all of the exposure she needed.
yeah.
So, an update on a story we talked about earlier this morning. This is all happening right now. It does appear that this Microsoft Activision merger is on the precipice because Microsoft tweeted out 25 minutes ago, or Phil Spencer, who is the Xbox guy, quote, "We are pleased to announce that Microsoft and PlayStation have signed a binding agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation following the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. We look forward to the future where players globally can have more choices." So Sony has given up the ghost. They realize that they are going to lose, and they have signed the deal. So this thing is imminent. Like probably will happen in the next 2 or 3 days.
Nice.
Yep, nice, very nice.
Keep us posted. Now, here's something else that is, it's going to change some of the things we do. The Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, IEEE, has added 802.11bb as the standard for light based wireless communications. The publishing of the standard has been welcomed by global Li-Fi. They call it Li-Fi, L-I-F-I, instead of Wi-Fi businesses, as it will help speed the rollout and adoption of the data transmission technology standard. Advantages of using light rather than radio frequency are highlighted by Li-Fi components, including Pure Li-Fi, Fraunhofer, HHI, and the Light Communications 802.11bb task group. Li-Fi is set to deliver faster, more reliable wireless communications with unparalleled security compared to conventional technologies such as Wi-Fi and 5G. Now that the IEEE 802.11bb Li-Fi standard has been released, it is hoped that interoperability between Li-Fi system with a successful Wi-Fi will be fully addressed. Now, anybody here heard about Li-Fi before? I mean, I
No,
don't.
but
I
I'm
still. I
looking at the Ars Technica about
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, and I mean, I understand the interest, but this feels. I mean, we need to see how it will go.
What?
This is light-based communication.
Which means what?
It means like taking the speed of optical from the cable to something wireless, right? Uh, but it's light, right? And I mean, if we are talking about radio frequency interference with RF, right?
Yeah.
I mean, light, we are as a society, right? We are not, I don't think we are equipped right now for making sure that we have uh, good insulation against
Against light.
different different bandwidth of light, right? It's really interesting. What happens if I light today works only line of sight,
Yeah.
right?
It has
And the
to.
only alternative for line of sight is optical cables,
Yeah.
right? Like a physical medium that deals with that concept. Now they're talking about doing this somehow wirelessly. So I would right now categorize it with this is the idea of OLED pre 2002, right? This is like the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of something that will not work at first. This is initial standardization. Uh, it might be developed into something really, really exciting in the future, but it also might be a complete dud. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
so weird. What happens if what happens if I'm in the way,
right. That's
right?
what I was just going to say. You just
Yeah,
need to
it's
stick your
like
finger in the way, and that's it.
right. So that's why it's clear that they say it's not going to be a replacement for Wi-Fi. It's
No,
going
no, it's not.
going to be
Yeah.
in addition to, so it'll boost communication. I'm thinking it might be a good solution for actually um, uh, uh, those point to points
Yeah. The
RF,
radar, the microwave. Yeah.
yeah, something like that, maybe. But again, how does weather affect this? It all sounds really, really strange to be to be honest.
It does sound strange, but
You know?
it's. I mean, look, IEEE added it to the standard, then there must be something there.
Yeah. Not only that, there are actually chips, right, that are ready to implement.
Yeah.
It is none of them are cheap, right? Sorry, didn't mean for the pun, but they're very expensive. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll see it. I can think of one place where this might be a thing. It's like uh, wireless game streaming, where you hold a controller and the TV is in front of you, right? But then nothing should pass in between,
How is it?
stuff like
How
that,
how
where latency is really, really important. The reaction, maybe in VR systems that transfer to the VR headset, and you're in a very clear area. I can see that there. I do not. I mean, industrial or commercial use, I can't really fathom where that. But that's probably my limitation, right? Those who developed it, they probably have
better
some sort
idea?
of use cases that make sense.
Yeah.
It just yeah.
How do the controllers communicate with the TV now or with the console?
Today, either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi,
Okay. All
and
right.
those are getting very, very good at latency as well, right? So bizarre.
All right. Um, Chinese hackers exploited a flaw in Microsoft's cloud email service to gain access to the email accounts of U.S. government employees. Microsoft confirmed that. The hacking group, tracked as Storm 0558, compromised approximately 25 email accounts. Why does it make the news? I don't know.
I can tell you why it makes the news
Uh,
because of the way that they did it. They
yeah,
were able to fake the login certificates essentially from what I heard about it this week.
well, it says including government agencies as well as related consumer accounts linked to individuals associated with these organizations. According to Microsoft investigation determined that Storm 558, that the firm that's described as a well-resourced adversary, gained access to email accounts using Outlook web access in Exchange Online and
Yep.
Outlook.com by forging authentication tokens to access user accounts.
Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah,
Fake auth token. Well, not fake, but not legitimate from Microsoft auth
right.
tokens,
Yeah.
and they were able to spoof those somehow. They did know, I don't know if it's in your story, but take it for what it's
No,
worth,
that's
but the
it.
government did say that there was no classified stuff in there,
Right.
which would make sense. They're not sending classified stuff over email anyway,
Yeah.
probably. I would hope they're not, but then again, it's the government, so who the hell knows? Um, but yeah, obviously it was targeted, only 25 accounts. They must have been going after specific people or
Yeah.
specific accounts.
And there was something there. I don't know if it was this article or another one that there are still thousands of Microsoft um, certificates that have been compromised that are still being used out there, and they're not being replaced. They're not fixing them. I didn't understand what, why, and where, so I didn't even bother saving it. But anyway, okay. Here is something we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago. Telly. How about the TV? Telly's free 55-inch 4K dual screen TV sets are set to arrive at users' homes this week.
Hmm.
But of course, there is a catch. The startup, which plans to ship some 500,000 free ad supported TVs in 2023 in the US, is calling the initial wave a public beta program. The company says the new Telly households represent a diverse cross section of the US population, although the initial user base over indexes on education level and household income, and also skews toward Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Zers, and millennials. According to Telly, more than 250,000 people have signed up to receive the free TV set, which display an always on rotating ad unit on a 9-inch high second screen situated below the main 55-inch one. Each unit also includes a free Chromecast with Google TV adapter. The bulk of the 500,000 TVs will go out in the fourth quarter of 2023. He said that the big guy said, we think there's no better Black Friday deal than free. To receive the free TV, Tele users must submit detailed demographic info, such as age, gender, and address, as well as purchasing behavior, brand preferences, and viewing habits. And they must agree to let their data be used for serving targeted ads. Telly's TVs include a sensor that detects how many people are in front of the screen at any given moment. So that's the catch. What's the catch? Tele users must agree to several conditions under the company's term of service. If someone doesn't abide by the term of service, Telly reserves the right to demand the TV be shipped back. Otherwise, they will charge up to $1,000 to the credit card associated with a given account. So you have to give them a credit card,
I went
obviously.
through the process. I
You
don't
did?
remember giving a credit card.
Oh, so it says 1,000 to the
I
credit card.
wonder I wonder if they reach back out to you to continue the
Yeah.
process if
Right
that's what they
now,
ask.
I'm
That would
waiting
make
for a
sense.
notification. So
Yeah.
nobody said they're shipping it yet. So it says you've completed your reservation. We have received your reservation. Stay tuned. And it says all of the reservation updates will be sent to your Tele mobile app. If you haven't
Okay,
already,
so I
recommend
guess
an
there will
update.
be something later
Yeah.
on because, yeah, otherwise they can't collect anything. They must
Well,
have a way.
the process was a very long survey, right?
Okay.
You fill up a survey with a lot of detail, and I understand that.
Yeah.
uh, and it's fine, right? I'm signing up for that. Uh, but yeah, it's. I mean, I'll be happy to update as
Yeah, you
the
please
moment we
do.
know more. Yeah.
I thought when they were talking about the sensor, when I was reading it, I thought they're going to say that, oh, and you have to have at least 4 people watch. If not, then we take it back.
Nah, no. But I think so. Remember when we looked at it first?
Mhm.
uh, One of the things we said is, yeah, sure, we'll just cover this
Yeah,
with some
right.
paper, right? That bottom. If that's where the sensor array is as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
then
that's
it's a problem to cover it, right?
right.
And that is how they're dealing with that.
Well,
So at
they're
least
gonna be
we're getting
on Amazon, they're gonna be selling you templates that you stick on top of that, that
probably,
leave
yeah.
what needs to be open, it leaves open.
Look, the moment they ship this, I already envision some YouTube channels taking it apart, explaining how the hardware works, right?
Oh,
Invalidating their end user license and, getting fined by them just so they can do that. I mean, usually with the channels with millions of viewers, they can cover the cost pretty easily
yeah,
or something like that.
sure,
So yeah,
sure.
it's an interesting venture. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, yep. It's interesting any way you look at it. It's an
Yeah.
interesting situation. All right. Anthropic, an artificial intelligence startup positioning itself as the builder of a safer kind of chatbot, has released a new version of its AI bot named Claude. Anthropic said that Claude 2 is available to anyone in the US or UK online at Claude.ai, and businesses can access it via an application programming interface. The new release on Tuesday comes several months after Anthropic began offering an earlier version of Claude to businesses that wanted to add it to their products. Previously, the bot was tested by a handful of companies, including Quora, which built it into an app called POE, that lets user ask questions. So Claude is out there too now for anybody.
Isn't Claude the word used to describe an idiot?
Never heard that.
He's a Claude.
Not that I'm aware
Not,
of.
I think in British English it is.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, let's see. So if you want to play with it, it's Claude, CLAUDE.ai. Claude. Uh, let's see what else we have here. It's almost end of the show, but so now that, well, here, the European Commission today decided it is safe for personal data to be transferred from the European Union to US based companies, handing a victory to firms like Facebook and Google despite protests from privacy advocates who worry about US government surveillance. The Commission announced that it adopted its adequacy decision for the EU US data privacy framework, concluding that the United States ensures an adequate level of protection comparable to that of the European Union for personal data transfer from the EU to US companies under the new framework. On the basis of the new adequacy decision, personal data can flow safely from the EU to US companies participating in the framework without having to in place put in place additional data protection safeguards. So everything that it took, I mean, they were saying no, we have any of our data has to stay in the EU. Now they gave up on it. They changed their mind. I wonder why.
Because it's not realistic.
Yeah, it never
Actually,
It's
was.
just
it
not.
is.
It's not
It is
practical for these
realistic.
companies.
Now I
I
read
mean,
something
I,
else. Go
before
ahead.
you go, this is a larger problem. Um, you talk we've talked a lot about the whole app store thing with
Yeah.
between Epic and Apple, and how I don't even know, I don't know if it's the EU or the UK that is requiring them, or going to be requiring them, to allow these stores in these global when these with these global companies that provide services to different countries. And obviously, there's a UK app store, so yes, they have some level of localization. I don't know. I don't know why there's such a huge push for this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the
it just
push
doesn't
came
make
from the
sense.
US.
The what?
Say it again.
The push came from the US, not wanting their data to be in Chinese data centers.
Sure.
That is where it started, right? And so the European Union followed suit with saying, okay, we got these American conglomerates holding our citizens' data, right, outside of our control. And not only that, saying probably under the control of the US government. And so that's where that discussion came. I do not know what caused them to fold, but I'm guessing the decision isn't a technical one, right? It's more a political one. Now, is it realistic to achieve? Like technically, yes. Should they? That is a completely different question. I think the data should not be accessible to any government, right? It doesn't matter where the data is. So if that is like some sort of agreement on that level, that as long as the companies can prove that the data isn't accessible to anyone, right, other than the company who's working with the data, starts to make a bit more sense. But then it doesn't really matter if the data sits on a Chinese server either, right? So um, I don't. It's an interesting discussion. It is part xenophobic. It is part technical. Um, I don't really know how I feel about it. I do know that as a person, right? And everybody here heard me say, I would rather have the data under my control,
Yep.
right? My own data. So the real question is if any of the rulings can make it so that me, as a private entity, I can decide where my data is, right? And if I want it like literally siloed at my home, then maybe I should be given that option for a price. I'm not saying always serve it for me for free, right? But explain the costs to me. Tell me why it is better for me to put my data outside of my home and what are the benefits I'm getting, but also allow me to do it on my own. As technical as that may be, right? Uh, Allow that spectrum of options. If the discussion is going there, then I'm for it. But it never seems to be that thing, right? This is my fantasy, not a government's fantasy to allow complete freedom to its citizens, because then it doesn't have a way of controlling him. So I don't know. It's like
Two questions for you. Can you when you say it's partially xenophobic? Can you elaborate in regards to what?
in regards to the Europeans, the European says we do not want to trust the U.S. The U.S. says we do not want to trust the Chinese. Right? These are foreign entities. We do not trust the way they work, uh, and so we do not want my. I don't want my data being on somebody else. So xenophobic here is this is me. This is foreign, right? I don't want my data in foreign hands. Uh, in a way, the internet as an idea, right? I'm talking as it started to open up because it started as a U.S. Defense Department project, right? But as an idea, when it became the most successful venture of academics, right? Sharing data freely, and from there it started to get more and more in the access of other users. The idea is no borders. We do
Right.
not care about the borders anymore, right? And suddenly, the most heated political discussion around this is where do we put the borders and how do we set those borders back? And that is the part that I feel
Well,
that border, right, shouldn't be a country. That border should be the difference between me as a personal entity. It can be a personal, a private company, yes, right? Me as a personal entity and the rest of the world, right? And how do I interact with it? How do I control the way I interact with it? But that discussion doesn't seem to get to the political discourse. In a way, even GDPR and the European Union's approach to data privacy and all that, even that is like we can only control what happens to our citizens, but we do have some semblance of what privacy should look like. And those first steps were interesting. They were good. They were effective. This one specifically seems like ill-informed. I should not. I should not ask that the data be in European side because then I am creating distrust between my citizens and me because suddenly I'm saying I only want to be able like if some it's like don't beat my child. I'm the only one allowed to beat my child, right? It's like an approach that says I am the only one who is allowed to abuse this data. And no, nobody should be allowed to abuse the data at all. And that's how the political discourse should go. And that's how it started. This particular step, I think it means nothing, right? That's
okay.
that's that's the point of view I'm looking at it.
When you
So
say nobody should be allowed to misuse the data, what what do you do when you know that groups and countries or entities are abusing the data? Isn't it? I mean, to me, that's what this is. It's not.
Yeah.
You know,
It's buying and selling and using
when
it.
I
Yeah.
think of something being xenophobic because of it being against another country, that would just to me that's a blanket thing because I don't like whatever group of people are in that country. But once in the case of the EU or whoever it was at the United States, no wonder they don't want the data over here. I mean, they've seen that our government spy operation is out of freaking control. So I don't know that
right,
it
but that
necessarily
spy
fits that definition.
operation is also out of control without the government. Like just the way these private companies are working, regardless of the government, right? The problem is the way they operate from the get go, not the fact that the data is in the US or China, right? Is
And
how they're using that data.
well, and they
And
use that data because they're provide most of the time it's because they're providing you a quote unquote free service. And
that's
that's the
fine.
deal with the free service, unfortunately.
So, like, the way I think this eventually should go is to a situation where the end user is educated, right, about their exposure. And I'm not talking in a mile long end user license, right? I am talking about understanding real consequences of how the data collected about them is affecting their lives, right? Not, oh, just by the way, I'm going to collect everything I can about you, but I won't ever tell you how, right, that exposure is affecting you. And that's, I think that's the part that if if we should have a government and the government needs to do something for us, I think that is what it needs to be doing. And shouting that the other is the evil, right? It's the US that are evil and we are going to be okay, or the Chinese that are evil and we are going to be okay. I think that's bullshit, right? That's politics. That has nothing to do with reality. That is just populism. That is demagogy. We need uh, uh, we need a way of uh, like making sure that understanding the ramification of the exposure of the data is clear, and I think that doesn't exist. It exists in very small technical circles, right? We're talking about it every day. And not only are we talking about it, we actually expose ourselves in certain ways, thinking we have better control of it, right? And obviously we're probably wrong about the control. But it's like, and we're the ones who are approaching it with uh uh a lot more understanding of what's at risk. But that doesn't exist for most people. And I think if the government needs to do something, it needs to do something about that. It's about how do you make sure that you keep the people safe regardless of where they're from.
Yeah, but who decides what is safe?
Me,
Right?
the individual, right? So that's why I'm saying the key is I need to understand how this data is collected and how, right, how it is
You see,
disseminated
you
afterwards.
would understand it, but your average person,
Yeah, but
nothing,
so here's an
nothing.
example. If we're collecting a data model about me, right? If you're collecting a data model about me, first of all, make it available to me, right? You wanna use the data about me, make sure I can actually see everything
I
that
wonder
you've
how many
collected.
people out there will say that.
No, no, it's not a matter of whether they're going to use it or not. The moment they are required to do it, right?
Oh,
There are
okay.
gonna be those. There are gonna be those who are going to scrutinize the data about themselves and inform those about others' wrongdoing
Okay. All right. All right. All right.
good, right?
Yeah.
It's like the moment you're forced to do it, then things start to be in the open, right? There's no the opacity of what how the data can hurt you, right? It's suddenly out in the open.
Okay.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
All right. The last thing, Nick, how many tweets do you put out a week?
Um,
Roughly.
maybe 20 or 30. It's not a
Yeah,
lot.
no, you're not going to fall into this.
What is it?
Twitter has started sending out the first payouts to
Oh yeah,
create the
I saw
creators
this.
on the platform who are part of the company's revenue sharing program.
Mm.
Yeah.
The largest payout reported thus far was to Billy Marcus, the co-creator of the Dogecoin, Do- Dog-
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin cryptocurrency, which amounted to a whopping of $37,050.
Yep.
Users who subscribe to Twitter Blue and have earned more than 5 million tweet impressions each month for the last 3 months are eligible to join. According to owner Elon Musk, the first round of creator payouts will total 5 million and will be cumulative from the month of February onward. These payouts will be delivered via Stripe. Twitter's payouts are determined by tweet impressions. Babylon B writer Ashley Claire, 710 followers, said that she earned $7,153. And according to her napkin math, she had around 840 million impressions from February through July. That would make her rate about 0.0085 cents per cost per mile. Oh. Or 8
CPM is cost per million, not cost
Yeah.
per mile.
Well, they saying cost per mile here. Yeah.
Oh.
Or 8.52 per million impression. $8. It's not clear whether or not individual CPMs change from user to user. But that's interesting. So now people are pushed to actually post more and post stuff that other people will, hey,
Well, an impression is it's not only you posted, but
it's how
something
many.
happened to that post.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, people see it.
It's being moved. Yeah.
I actually subscribed to Twitter Blue this week. So yeah.
All right. Did
And I'm
you?
guessing you need to be subscribed in order to get
Yeah.
the revenue, right? It's
Yeah.
Yes.
it's not enough to being popular, is being popular and being a subscriber.
It's a very interesting, it's essentially the YouTube model. But with it's essentially the YouTube model. YouTube pays out ads cost per million. Your videos get more views,
Right.
you make more money. It's the video ad model, but with content, which is very, very interesting. I don't know that anybody's ever done this before where they're paying out based on straight content, right? These tweets don't have ads embedded in them.
Right.
But now there are ads on the sidebar, there are ads in the timeline, but it's what a great way to from Elon Musk's standpoint, what a great way to curate content. I mean, when you are essentially these are for the top 0.001% of people on Twitter, but for the people that bring content to the platform, what a great way to encourage them to use it and to use it hardcore and put good stuff out that will be seen. Because if I saw one of the guys that I follow like a $7,000 payout for being this guy posts. It's a meme account. It's a political meme account, and this guy pulls down a $7,500 Stripe payment. What a genius idea.
It's interesting, but it's also, so what happens now? Marvel puts out a trailer video, right? They put it out on Twitter, and suddenly they're the top earner of Twitter for that week, right? It's like that's what will happen, right? These large corporations will see it as a cash cow.
Well, I mean, no, I don't think it got to be something that other people want to see and other people
Yeah, that's
want
why
to
I'm saying a Marvel,
retweet
like
and all
something
that.
that people will say, this is crap, this is good, it will create discussion.
Well,
right?
that's what they want to do anyway. That's the whole point of it. To create more, to bring good content that more people would want to see and more people would follow and things like that. So that's the whole point
Right,
of it.
but so what I'm talking about is this sounds like a pyramid scheme. Like why
Well,
it sounds like a pyramid? No, I'll explain. I'll explain what, because you'll have large corporation issue out a post about something, right? And then a content creator will create comments about that, right? And will reshare that. And so every genuine content creator, right, is going to basically feed impressions to content created by these large corporations, by the CNBCs, by the Marvels, by the
Yeah.
PlayStation, the Nintendo. That's how it feels like where it will go. Um, I
This
don't
is
know.
not, from what I understand, and I could be wrong. Um, this is not. This is for individual user accounts. I don't know that corporations have this same level of payout. From what I understand, I could be wrong
Oh,
on that.
Yeah, but
Because
then how do
part
you do the distinction and when do you cut right? I mean, even these individuals, they're especially the top earners, right? They're already in a point where it's a team of people that are producing the content.
Well,
So,
not necessarily though, because from the people that I've seen, these are not like corporation accounts that are tweeting this out. Like Amnon mentioned Ashley Sinclair. She's got her own Twitter account. Yeah, she's an employee of Babylon B, but it's her account that's getting the payout. And there's human verification with these accounts. It's not just any Twitter verified blue account that gets tweets is eligible for payouts. It's certain accounts, and I believe it's user accounts that are eligible right now.
yeah. You
I
have
don't
to.
know if
You ha-
corporations are,
right. You have to have a blue
but it's more
subscription,
than just having a blue.
and you have to be part of the revenue sharing uh, group. So yeah, you're right. It's not just having blue that you are um, you can get money. It's you have to also be member of another group that's sharing. And I
okay,
guess they
so you're
have
saying the vetting process, that's
yeah,
what will
yeah,
filter
There is
out
a
this?
yeah.
there is an
Maybe
extensive vetting because
interesting. Yeah.
there's people that I follow that are bitching that they're not eligible for it yet, even though they say that they hit the metrics on it, and
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the reason is. But in terms of, and from Twitter's standpoint, you brought up the example of like a movie trailer or something like that. What a genius idea! Instead of Marvel, instead of publishing it to Facebook, let's say they were eligible, instead of publishing it to Facebook and YouTube and their Instagram accounts, maybe they just put it on Twitter for the first 24 or 48 hours,
Yep.
rack up hundreds of millions of views, and then get paid on it.
Right.
Which all that does is drive traffic to the platform.
Oh, no, I mean, from Twitter's point of view, I mean, for them, it seems like the right move. I am looking at it as a consumer of content. Is it going to promote the content that I really want to see? Right? That's what I'm thinking. It's like, is it in the long term? Is it going to be a good thing for me as a consumer of content? And so
As
I'm trying to think of where it can go wrong. Right? That's basically
as somebody who uses Twitter constantly, and I've said this before, and it's the reason I subscribed for Twitter Blue, is that I wanted a couple of the features, and I use it. I mean, essentially, I use it for work. It is my, and I know this is
right.
going to sound insane, but it's my primary source for news, and I say that because of this what I do for work and the circles that I follow. The news breaks on social media, and then it makes its way to WRAL and all these other outlets.
Right.
I think if to me for how I use Twitter, and everybody is different, it to me it seems like it will encourage people to get their information out on Twitter or prioritize maybe the quality of information that they put out on Twitter. Now, the negative side of that is that yes, if you're one of these accounts, you could just publish a bunch of bullshit all day, and that's fine, but you will eventually lose your followers, and your account will you won't be getting the views on those posts. Twitter is very much a trust platform. I mean, you choose what you see based on who you follow.
Hmm.
And if you follow accounts that are constantly, wanting to be first, even though it's inaccurate information, you will likely eventually unfollow those accounts because it won't, there's no benefit of following.
True.
You're getting bad. It's an interesting idea to pay people based on the content that they were already posting. I mean, these accounts, oh, what is it, 5 mil? How many impressions a month did they need?
They said that they blah, blah, blah,
5, I think.
5 million tweet impression each month
That's a lot.
for the last
mean, for
3
you-
months.
That's exactly. So you
Yeah.
can't just have one tweet that's popular, and then the next thing you know, you're the guy that's pulling in 10 grand a month from Twitter.
Yeah.
And even at 5 million, the money you're going to be making is going to be pennies, the same way that it is on YouTube. To make $6, $7, $8,000 a month, you're going to need hundreds of millions of impressions for it to actually be something that is, more than just getting a $8 payout from Twitter. So it's going to incentivize the people that are already popular on the platform and driving traffic to the platform to continue doing it and not be maybe intrigued with some of these things like Threads and some of these other platforms.
It's not a new concept, right? Let's be clear. There are a lot of attempts at social media to work like this. It's just
It didn't
this
work.
time
Right.
it's an established social media with millions that is
Yep.
changing their model and adopting it.
Well,
yes,
I think it's a new, and I know I'm not trying to get out of here, but I think it's new in one respect. Yes, if you are a major account, you've always been able to generate money on Facebook and YouTube and some of these other platforms.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about that similarity. I'm talking about a social network that uh, rewards the content creator directly by the exposure. There's still, it's just small. Minds. Have you ever
Sure.
seen
Yeah.
that?
Mine's is very
That's the
popular.
same idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool concept. I'm not sure why everybody. It's amazing to see how Elon Musk was such a popular guy, and then the second that he bought Twitter and said a couple of things that people disagreed with, he became the the reincarnation of the devil himself. It's been a pretty hilarious trend to watch.
Well, it happened before the Twitter thing, I think. But there is already an video network that does this, right? I remember when there were a lot of
Rockfish?
channels. No,
YouTube.
I don't remember the name. No. Outside of YouTube, YouTube does not pay by exposure. It pays by exposure to ads, right?
Yes.
So that's different. There is like a subscription based video platform that I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
One of
Well,
them is Rockfin that does exactly what you're describing. That's used, but it's not very big. It's in kind of more.
That's the problem. All of those that start, right? If they start, they don't have the audience. They don't have the creators.
Right.
Twitch tried
he's
pulling
got the audience.
right
Yep.
creators and exclusivity and failed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's follow this.
Anyway.
Let's see where it takes.
Yeah. Who mentioned pyramid scheme?
I said.
Huh? God.
I mentioned.
Yeah.
said
I
it, yeah.
I saw. I can't remember which show it was. One of the older shows, and they were selling cosmetics, and he's telling the girl, she said, "Well, isn't there just a pyramid scheme?" And the girl said, "No. And she gets a paper off her easel, and it's a pyramid upside down, like with the point down. And she said, "No, this is what we call it. You are all the way at the bottom, and you can never get up from where you are right now." Yeah. All right. That's the end of the show for today. Unless there's something else that anybody want to bring up. Nope.
Nada. I'll be back in a couple weeks.
All right. Yep. That's fine. All right. So thanks, Nick. Thanks, Gal. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Dina, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, and Yael. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. change any same passwords where you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM with his daily news and commentary show. And you can tell your Echo device to play 980 The Wave. And after the fact, you can go to recordings at nickcraig.com. Also, Tuesdays, 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection podcast on Twitch. This is for survival games, gaming news, and some political commentary. So 7 p.m. on Tuesday, twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll be together again next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.